good evening, and welcome to our continuing series, Explorations in Savitri, with our beloved Alok. We are in Canto 13, in the Self of Mind, page 286, roughly 5 lines down from the top, beginning with this world, the world seemed a long, aeonic failure scene.
Yes. And the line above is stage for the comedy of ignorance. You see, it's nothing else but ignorance at play. So, in this self of mind, though, with a capital S, is a shelf in the vast panorama of the infinite. But a shelf which overhangs, all around it there is infinity. And below it, it can look at creation as it seems from that poise, as if it's nothing else but a self-sustaining movement of nature which has emerged from the mind and has no real substantial substance within it. So one cannot, while in this poise, cannot understand the real sense, meaning, purpose, direction, if any. So one can well understand the experience of those who went here and they declared that the world is basically a play of illusion, it's a creation of the mind, Maya. These are different words. But essentially, the experience here is the essential unreality of the world. So this
No
is
feeling of oneness.
no oneness is not even the one. It's nothingness actually. So the one comes later in when Sri Aurobindo speaks of the unknowable. Then we have the experience of the one. So, what does the world look like from this poise, this vantage point? The world seemed a long, aeonic failures scene. All sterile grew, no base was left secure. So, Sri Aurobindo uses the word sterile. So, there is nothing which is going to come. The whole creative urge is as if not there. There is no real creative urge. It's just a events, situations, circumstances, all are rolling ceaselessly in a meaningless circle of nature, not unfolding. Unfolding is where Sri Aurobindo comes in with the unfolding of the divine Leela. Assailed by the edge of the convicting beam, the skeptic ray, which he has described, the convicting beam which looks upon creation, and what does it say? The builder reason lost her confidence in the successful sleight and turn of thought that makes the soul the prisoner of a phrase. That's why we see repeatedly, even in the Gita, and Sri Aurobindo has written a whole essay on this. The interpretation of scriptures is Sri Aurobindo has written a whole article on that. It's there in Essays in Philosophy and Yoga or Essays Divine and Human, one of the two. And the Gita and the synthesis, Sri Aurobindo reminds us to go beyond the word. The Gita, the phrase is Sabda Brahma Ati Vartate. So don't become a prisoner of a web of phrases, however high they may seem. Because otherwise you will keep on with the interpreting mind churning yourself around. But lose the inner sense that comes by the awakening of intuition. So that's what is important. Now these words are powerful, helpful, important, they have their own role. But don't make them the primary. And that's how those who realize go beyond it. So the same truth they can say in very different words. That's what we see in Sri Aurobindo in Savitri. Its highest wisdom was a brilliant guess. Its mighty structured science of the worlds, a passing light on beings' surfaces. Beings' surfaces. There was nothing there but a schema drawn by sense, a substitute for eternal mystery. So the real thing was always a mystery. It's like a scheme, a provisional picture, an image, like those who make it on the drawing a building. But that is the schema. The drawing does not say who is going to be the occupant of the house. It's a schema. The body is the instrument of the soul. That knowledge is not here. It is just a meaningless, birth and death. A scroll figure of reality, a plan, and elevation by the architect word imposed upon the semblance of time. See, this scroll figure of reality, literally, if you look at some of those algebra equations which try to capture the profound truths in those terms, scrawled figure of reality. Somebody has just scrawled something, and and like an elevation, like architects do it. So all the images that there is the plan, there is the building, there is the image, but why it has been built, for whose purpose, and who has built it, that is not there. So it's like
And we have here the word.
yes,
And Mother says words fail us.
yeah. So this is the vibration which has created this whole thing. Wherever the word comes with a capital W, it means that essentially existence, self was shadowed by a doubt, because this is what we know as existence, mind, vital, and the physical. So when that itself becomes unsubstantial, as if there is nothing in it, so then it's a doubtful thing itself. And then these two images are very interesting. Sri Aurobindo has used these images. Almost it seemed a lotus leaf afloat on a nude pool of cosmic nothingness. The complementary canto, we will see cosmic consciousness. And you remember what is this lotus pool and lotus leaf on a nude pool of cosmic nothingness? This is an image which comes in the Bhagavad Puran. And this image, there it is used the word banyan leaf. Banana leaf or banyan leaf. Banana leaf. Here Sri Aurobindo has used the word lotus leaf, which is far more appropriate. So what happens, a very interesting, a little side story, but a very interesting story. So there is the sage Markandeya, who is immortal, one of the immortals. Sri Aurobindo has immortalized him in his famous poem, Markandeya. Actually, there is a poem. So, at the end of the day, he suddenly is meditating and he sees the river Subhadra is swelling and swelling and swelling. And slowly he starts seeing that everything is being drowned within it. It's a vision of Pralaya. And then all the oceans are swelling, and then all the beings are getting drowned in it. And he himself is being taken up by these beings and again brought out. At the end of it, there is nothingness, just water. See, the cosmic pool of nothingness. So he is wondering how it has happened. What is this? Then he sees that there is floating on that pool a leaf. And then he wonders who is in this leaf. Then he sees baby Krishna, who is playing there, and he is sucking his toe. So very interesting. Lotus toe. That's how they describe in the Bhagavad. Then he looks at Krishna and wants to know who is this baby, and he is swallowed. And he goes into the belly of the baby and he sees many universes are there. Countless universes, everybody has been drawn inside his. So it is the being who, the cosmic consciousness, which we'll see in the complementary canto. And then he's brought out again. Then he wonders that, what did I see? And then he discovered that even in utter dissolution, something remains. We see it in the beginning of Savitri. Even in this utter dissolution core, something remained, like a faint
unremembering entity.
Yeah, that's it.
An unremembered entity.
Unremembering entity.
It's there. There is something. Now here, these two lines which suddenly come reminded me of this whole image in the Bhagavad. This was a mystery. When I had read it as a child, I thought I understood everything in the Bhagavad except this. Because I said, what is this? Suddenly Krishna on a huge body of water after Pralaya and on the pool, because our conception of Krishna is he is born to, so and so. And this is a very, very cryptic thing in the Bhagavad. And I am sure this is referring to that mystery. Otherwise, this pool of cosmic nothingness and the lotus leaf, except that Sri Aurobindo has improvised it, lotus leaf, because this is the avatar, so the divine
And he
himself.
calls it a pool, not
Yeah,
a sea.
Yeah. This great spectator and creator mind was only some half-seeing's delegate, a veil that hung between the soul and light. So, he is poised there, Now, something very interesting will come which will show us what kind of beings take to Sri Aurobindo and the Mother's Yoga. Even the still spirit that looks upon its works,
Okay, Mr.
No,
Line.
an idol.
oh,
not
an
the-
idol, not the living body of God. So, what it saw was this whole creation as just forms and figures, but the spirit is missing. Even the still spirit that looks upon its works was some pale front of the unknowable. So, why the spirit is missing? It is there, but at the level of the mind, when you see the reflection, because the mind by its very nature, it's not the ultimate reality, even that appears as if there is something else of which one doesn't know. So in a traditional yogic experience, you will find that people speak of nothingness, and they actually say that as if even this spirit and God and they are conceptions. And what is beyond, then they will say it is an ultimate mystery. In traditional yoga, it is called as Par Brahman. And in more modern language, they will say nothingness, Shunyam, and the Mahashunyam, that which is beyond, of which nothing can be said. But that's what Sri Aurobindo is going to pierce later on. You cannot enter there and remain conscious or without the entry through the supermind. So that comes later. Its liberation, a shadow seemed the wide and witness self, its liberation and immobile calm, a void recoil of being from time-made things, not the self-vision of eternity. So that is missing there. It's just that it has withdrawn itself from all that it seemed the mind has built. But mind is only a formature. That vision is not here, it will come later. It is only a form giving entity. But it can withdraw from the forms it has made. But what is animating it or inhabiting it, that the mind cannot know. So that's why there are things which are missing here. Deep peace was there, but not the nameless force. Our sweet and mighty mother was not there, because she has appeared as Maya. So she is there and she is not there. In that poise, it's not that there is any place where mother is not there, but he is describing the experience in the self of the mind that you don't experience, you don't feel her touch. So no wonder many of them have declared that there is no such thing as Shakti, who gathers to her bosom her children's lives, her clasp that takes the world into her arms. This will come much later. Her clasp that turns to ecstasy our pain. One came, infinite, who took the world and nature and soul in her arms. This comes later, this is not here. In the fathomless rapture of the infinite. So that is missing. That's why people who are turned to the mother, that's why see some certain things Sri Aurobindo said are both practical and very profoundly true. Like he says all who have turned to the mother are doing my yoga. Actually, in a certain way, sense, this yoga cannot be done unless you turn to the mother. Though he has not put that proposition, but it actually implies it. Because if you try any other way, you will hit this point. And at this point, you will experience that there is no such thing as, it's a conception, nothing else. I don't even want to say there is no such thing as mother. But there is an experience there. That whole nature is gone. There is no power. There is no play of the divine Shakti anywhere.
Sri Aurobindo does say that by tapasya, it's a long and difficult road.
Absolutely. And you can
But-
get stuck in any of these places.
Yes, yes.
But if you turn to the Divine Mother,
Yes.
because she will take you
Exactly.
and you will feel a presence through all the experiences and you seek her. So you can't remain stuck here, because you will want her. The bliss that is creation's splendid grain. So that is also missing there. Or the white passion of God ecstasy that laughs in the blaze of the boundless heart of love. So he's telling us what all is missing here. So we can make a choice. We have the peace. We have the silence. But this silence is not yet filled, to put it in another way, by the rapture of the infinite, the Ananda. The Ananda is the creative force of the divine. And the love, that blazing love, which awakens us, inspires us, labors within us to carry us on this great journey. That's why those who reach there suddenly feel there is nothing further to go. It's like a cul-de-sac, you feel all around and there is infinity.
And now he tells us what has to be done.
Yes. And this is the difference between an
greater-
ordinary seeker and somebody who takes to this yoga. A greater spirit than the self of mind must answer to the questioning of his soul. When yoga is done out of mental curiosity, it reaches here and that's the end of it. When it is done to have some experience of liberation or nirvana, see, in liberation there is no real seeking of the soul. Seeking of the soul is why creation? Why all this drama? Why this play if at the end you have to just withdraw from the play? Why all this misery and suffering if at the end God says, I made you to suffer so that you can pray to me? How absurd it is. And you are supposed to pray to Him and worship Him. It's horrifying. He created a whole, and then at the end to rub salt on your injury. Oh, all this is an illusion. So, I remember somebody told me long back, like, oh, it's all an illusion. I said, okay, come, I'll ask you one thing. If I prick a pin into your skin, you say it's an illusion. There are people out there actually experiencing this pain and suffering. Okay, in a certain poise of consciousness, you can be free. But there are people who actually experience it, who condemned them to this state. If the end had to be the same as the beginning, that's where Sri Aurobindo answers. So this is the questioning of the soul. It wants to know why it is there, for what purpose. And if you say there is no purpose except to go back to the origin, then you have made an absurdity of the whole thing. So that's why he is using the word seeking of the soul. This is the difference between an aspiration which is seeking for liberation, presuming things, it doesn't want to question anything further. It says, no, mukti, that's it. And I'll be free, I'll have self-realization, whatever is meant by that. But there is something greater, a greater spirit than the self of mind must answer to the questioning of his soul. This is the aspiration. For here was no firm clue and no sure road. High climbing pathways seized in the unknown. An artist's sight constructed the beyond. In contrary patterns and conflicting hues, a part experience fragmented the whole. So it fragments, there is nature and there is the self. And what is nature? It's a illusory unfolding. The mind has projected it like a spider brings the web out of its body. That's how it is. And once it comes, it's an independent reality. It cannot absorb it back. So that is how it is explained.
Constructed the beyond.
Yeah. He looked above, but all was blank and still. A sapphire firmament of abstract thought escaped into a formless vacancy. So this is where thought becomes abstract and it stops having a hold on concrete things because it does away with that. And the beauty of Sri Aurobindo is at whatever plane of consciousness is at once in touch with the earthly real and the divinely whole. That is the beauty. Even when Ashupati is face to face with the Divine Mother, he speaks of the earth and the problem and the people here. Because he sees in one whole. But an abstraction of thought does away with it. Sometimes strange ways. I was in some of these videos which come on the WhatsApp and people accept those things as true. I heard recently some great being saying, the only reality is that you are alive. You are alive. So if you're by alive he meant physically. As if you are not alive when you leave the body. As if love has no reality. People give their life for the sake of love. You can't belittle it by saying the only thing that matters is the only truth that you are alive. Imagine you are alive without knowledge, without love, without truth. That life is being condemned. It's not a blessing. So that's because thought cannot hold this. So it tries to enter into a state of abstraction.
He says to the divine, mission to earth.
Yes.
Some living form.
Yes,
of
even
thee.
there he is praying for earth.
Yes.
He looked below, but all was dark and mute. A noise was heard between of thought and prayer, a strife, a labor without end or pause. A vain and ignorant seeking raised its voice. So when you enter this state, even prayer seems meaningless. There is nobody really to pray. So you use prayer sometime, but only as a scaffolding. Beyond it, it ceases. But Ashupati prays even at the doorstep of the highest. A rumor and a movement and a call, a foaming mass, a cry innumerable, rolled ever upon the ocean surge of life, along the coasts of mortal ignorance. So then the whole thing is done away with. There is no substance or reality. So whole thing is seen in one single block as a meaningless illusion. On its unstable and enormous breast, beings and forces, forms, ideas like waves, jostled for figure and supremacy, and rose and sank and rose again in time, and at the bottom of the sleepless stir, in nothingness, parent of the struggling worlds. So this is the cosmic nothingness. Next will be the cosmic spirit. So these two cantos will go as a complementary. So that is the vivid experience he is describing, where everything, whole creation, civilizations, ascending, descending, going down, pralaya and re-emerging, all these appear simply as waves rolling again and again in terms of time, but with no deeper meaning or sense to it. Even not just physical beings, even gods, the titans, all these beings in different worlds, the vital world, the mental world, even it comes after the greater mind. So even the gods of that mind, high gods, even they appear as if they are all in that great giant circle which is ending in nothingness.
Your mother says, I'm doing a series on that right now. She says the gods are also limited.
Yes.
Because they don't see the oneness.
Yes.
They
exactly.
argue amongst
Yeah.
themselves.
Oh, they quarrel. We have contaminated some bad qualities from them, or they from us, we don't know. But the buck must pass to the originator. So, though it ends here, that's the problem. The buck ends here because the Supreme is here. So, only they have other issues, we have other issues. A huge creator death, a mystic void, forever sustaining the irrational cry, forever excluding the supernal word, motionless, refusing question and response, reposed beneath the voices and the march, the dim inconscience, dumb incertitude. You may or may not be aware actually, because I have dabbled into many things by way of reading and understanding. So there is a whole philosophy. It's called the path of the saints, Sant Mat. So they actually say this creation is a creation of Kal. It's death that has created it. So don't deal with it. So if you ask them any questions about why, what, they'll say, no, all these questions have no meaning. You meditate, you will get free from it. So the questions are done away with. It's like cutting the knot and not opening it. So this is how one understands. There is no response to your questions. Reposed beneath the voices and the march, the dim inconscience, dumb incertitude, two firmaments of darkness and of light opposed their limits to the spirit's walk. So this remained dark and that remains luminous. So you now pass into it after death or whatever, and that's the end of the journey. But what that is inside the light, you can't come back to say. This is what great mystics have said, that this is creation, ignorant movement, and there is the light. You can go into that realm and be done with. So great masters sometimes hang on this shelf and reveal whatever they are experiencing there to those who are below, bidding them to come to this poise when they would understand the unreality of all things here, and then eventually withdraw into that light. Sometimes, I remember one very revered saintly person, revered. So he had come to the Air Force auditorium to give a talk. So first of all, usual with these people, came 2 hours late. Now in Air Force, we are taught to be dot on time, 1 minute before time. Otherwise, you can't function. Imagine if those pilots had taken it easy. So everybody was getting very jittery. So this man came, said, by breathing, this, that. Then ultimately, a young girl, 14-year-old, asked, so what happens after this? So he was unprepared, because you are prepared for philosophy questions. So he said, you get the self. So she said, what is the nature of this self? No, you will get it, then you will know it. Said, what is beyond this self? To that he had no answer. She asked, no, you tell me, what is beyond this self? From where has the self come? Why there is creation? No answer. But the strangest part is, this kind of a thing will find maximum followers. And I have only one reason to it, that we are lazy. We don't question, we don't aspire enough. We are lazy and selfish. We are happy with just my liberation. I should be, and we take comfort in masses and numbers. That's the other part. If you have lakhs of followers, then you feel, I'm in a nice place. Especially if film stars are coming, United Nations secretaries coming, you are must be paid. But where is the answer to my question? The soul seeking. So that's what he is reminding us, and that's what takes us beyond it. It moved, veiled in from self's infinity, in a world of beings and momentary events, where all must die to live and live to die. It's like you are condemned in this prison house. Immortal by renewed mortality. That's the only immortality they know. Talk to them about immortality, even of the soul. They talk about nothingness. Immortality is in the Vedas and the Upanishads. But immortality even of the soul, immortality being conscious in the infinite, immortality of the body, out of question. Immortal by renewed mortality, it wandered in the spiral of its acts or ran around the cycles of its thought, yet was no more than its original self, and knew no more than when it first began. To be was a prison, extinction the escape. That is the culmination, the tagline. We have taglines now, for election there is a new tagline. First it was Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas. Now it is, some new tagline, very nice tagline. So now the tagline there is, if you have the urge to be, then it is a prison. You are condemned. So what is the way? The only way is way out. Extinction, annulment is the escape. So now we can see where all these philosophies and experiences are poised. This is important because people often just have a tendency to put everything in one shelf. And because they put in one shelf, they believe that it's all same. I met such people. Told me, I remember in Delhi once in the library they had Osho Rajneesh and Sri Aurobindo and J. Krishnamurti. I said, have a heart at least, put them in the right order, right place. No, they are all the same. I said that means you have neither read Osho nor read J. Krishnamurti and certainly not Sri Aurobindo. They are not the same. They are speaking different things because they have experienced different things. But the beauty of Sri Aurobindo has experienced all those experiences you find enshrined there and gone beyond. But here you have not experienced what Sri Aurobindo has experienced, and therefore you have no right to speak about what he has experienced. That makes the difference.
Must have made you well loved.
Well, born rebel. But it's a good thing because, the only one I felt eventually of really obeying fully is the mother. All other things, forms of thought seemed inadequate. So I just couldn't be taken away by half-hearted. I'd read a lot of things. All possible philosophies, Indian thought and Western thought. And I realized they're all inadequate. But when you come to Sri Aurobindo, you see, "Arey, here is the perfect answer. More than what you can question." So,
We have 15 minutes left.
oh yes, we can
So let us enter.
peep
this.
into this
I
canto.
would
It's
like
a
to
very
read- I would
beautiful.
like to read that part where he travels by the mysterious
Yes,
sound.
it's a very, very beautiful canto.
So beautiful.
So what is hiding in that cosmic nothingness, this cosmic consciousness which can be experienced as a vast impersonality, which is what people have called Brahman. Though you can call Brahman this as well as the unknowable. That is the interesting part, and Sri Aurobindo writes that. But you can enter into this voice and take it that this is Brahman. But there is something hiding out there or someone, and that is the cosmic spirit. He answers because he has said in this cosmic nothingness, there is no questioning, no answer, no response. There is prayer and thought, but nothing. But look how it starts. Canto 14, the world soul. A covert answer to his seeking came. Ashwapati is seeking for something greater. He is seeking the sense of this world. Who is hiding inside the leaf, the flower, the tree, the stone? Who is playing with colors in the sky? Who is coming up in our heart as emotions, giving us the urge to love and pray? And who is all this drama? Who is the director and the author and the spectator and the actor of this vast place? So now the cosmic spirit reveals itself in a far. So we saw Krishna's one form there, we'll see another form. But Krishna has the, cosmic being. In a far shimmering background of mind space, a glowing mouth was seen, a luminous shaft. So in that, he's seeking. So to this seeking there comes a little like a shaft of light. This is the door. Go through this door. So like that it opens like a door. A recluse gate it seemed, musing on joy. That was the hint there.
Yes.
Peace is here, but you get a touch of joy there. A veiled retreat and escape to mystery. This is the real spiritual retreat.
Yes.
Not in some isolated place. Retreat through this recluse gate. Away from the unsatisfied surface world, it fled into the bosom of the unknown. A well, a tunnel of the depths of God. So it's, one has to pass through this little well. It's a real experience, so there's nothing to be described. It's not a metaphor, it's not a symbol, it's a real experience. You go through the tunnel to enter into this place. So it is a tunnel and a well. This is full of exact experience. That's it. What Sri Aurobindo is described here is experience. It plunged as if a mystic grove of hope through many layers of formless, voiceless self. That's what Sri Aurobindo says when he says that I went beyond the Advaitin and I found my Krishna there. This is an aphorism of Sri Aurobindo. And from that heart, to reach the last profound of the world's heart, and from that heart, there surged a wordless call, pleading with some still impenetrable mind. You see, if you go through the mind, you enter into this state of Brahman. This is the other part. And if you take this route, you will enter into this first. You will enter this aspect. You can enter into the nothingness subsequently if that's your goal. But if you go through the mind, you enter into this abstraction and you can be content there. And from that heart there surged a wordless call, pleading with some still impenetrable mind, voicing some passionate unseen desire, as if a beckoning finger of secrecy, outstretched into a crystal mood of air, pointing at him from some near hidden depth, as if a message from the world's deep soul, an intimation of a lurking joy that flowed out from a cup of brooding bliss.
Oh, there it is.
So then you encounter first touch of that bliss of creation, the throb of bliss. Bliss is the sign. There shimmered, stealing out into the mind, a mute and quivering ecstasy of light, a passion and delicacy of roseate fire. So slowly that bliss seems to invade this nothingness and fill it. That's how this whole creation is filled. There is first a nothingness, a schema. But that is filled with this spirit and many forms emerge that Sri Aurobindo describes in Who. Whose is the hand that has painted the clay. Few lines, then maybe you can read that part.
Okay.
As one drawn to his lost spiritual home, feels now the closeness of a waiting love, into a passage dim and tremulous, that clasped him in from day and night's pursuit. He travelled led by a mysterious sound. This is Sri Aurobindo's experience. He speaks of that in one of the aphorisms. Which Krishna are you pitting me against? And then he speaks of that Krishna in whose arms he would spend days and nights. That delight, that ananda, that you experience that you are back home, into that home of light.
A murmur, multitudinous and lone, all sounds it was in turn, yet still the same, a hidden call to unforeseen delight, in the summoning voice of one long known, well loved, but nameless to the unremembering mind. It led to rapture back the truant heart.
So beautiful this is. One is that, the divine is calling you in many ways. And his voice is taking so many forms. And the other part is the truant heart. Someone who has strayed away
Truant, yeah.
from the home.
The sentence is beautiful.
Very beautiful. Truant heart, led back home. Come, my child, I'm waiting for you. Come. Enough, you have seen, you have experienced that world. It is not yet that ultimate mystery, but still, look at the beauty of this whole approach. Who wouldn't want to go there?
You bunked a class, you skipped this,
Yes.
you missed this.
Ah.
The
Then who
truant
bothers
heart.
about, your duties in the world? When Mother was asked duty to the world and the divine. So she said, he who has turned to the divine has no other duty except to serve and love the divine. There is no other duty. If you want to do it, you can do, but don't put it as if it's God wants you to do that duty. That duty is only till you have not graduated into that phase. Yes, please. A few more lines we can read.
I'll read the section so we
Yes.
don't miss
Yes,
the feeling
yes,
of this.
yes.
This beautiful image.
Yes, please
The
continue.
immortal cry ravished the captive ear. Then, lowering its imperious mystery, it sank to a whisper circling round the soul. It seemed the yearning of a lonely flute that roamed along the shores of memory and filled the eyes with tears of longing joy.
This,
A cricket's, sorry.
this flute, Sri Aurobindo, when someone saw a flute in a dream or And someone heard the call.
Yes.
Sri Aurobindo said it's the sign of call of the divine.
Yes.
When the divine calls, you hear like that. And it's very beautifully captured in Mirabai's bhajans, where she speaks about this float which she is hearing and is drawn with tears of longing joy. And also these sounds of crickets when the inner being opens, all these sounds, the conch shells, all these can be experienced. Yes.
A cricket's rash and fiery single note, it marked with shrill melody, night's moonless hush, and beat upon a nerve of mystic sleep, its high, insistent, magical reveille.
It is the bhav samadhi of those who are approached through bhakti. This thrill, this insistent, this night into which they enter, and they are enjoying that state. So that's how it is a mystic sleep.
A jingling silver laugh of anklet bells traveled the roads of a solitary heart. Its dance solaced an eternal loneliness, an old forgotten sweetness, sobbing came.
So that's also Mother says that to be alone, this loneliness can only be filled with the divine presence. Otherwise, one feels terrible because this is what will fill this loneliness completely. Its dance.
Or from a far, harmonious distance heard the tinkling pace of a long caravan, it seemed at times, or a vast forest's hymn, the solemn reminder of a temple gong, a bee croon, honey drunk in summer isles, ardent with ecstasy in a slumbrous noon, or the far anthem of a pilgrim sea.
So these are the many kinds of sounds that one hears in the inner being when one is approaching that state of cosmic spirit.
Yes.
And it can also translate itself in another way through states of consciousness, tears of longing joy. So it can take that form. So all these experiences slow beautifully the temple gong. And now one can see that many of these images that we see, for example in temples, churches, all these places, are basically symbols of inner mystic experiences. So you have the gong, you have the conch shell, you have the
bells.
different bells. And this far, that caravan, I don't know, actually as a child in a village, in Indian villages, you could actually hear when those bullock carts will go in a, they won't go alone because sometimes they may be waylaid. So there would be 5-6 of them going, and you hear those all these bullocks were tied with those little bells.
Bells, yeah.
So when they are going, they are making that ting 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 sound from far you hear, and sometimes they would be singing a song. Here it's like a hymn if the sages are going in a forest, and that's the hum you hear, or the bee, honey drunk bee crooning, and all these are sounds that you hear. Or the far anthem of a pilgrim sea. And you can also actually smell all these subtle senses. So he says, an incense floated in the quivering air. You can actually smell. Even Mother and Sri Aurobindo's presence, you can know by the smell. Sri Aurobindo's presence is always the lotus smell, that very gentle lotus smell. Then if you are in the presence of someone who is, if these senses are developed, who has purified his being, you get a jasmine smell. Somebody who is into a state of bhakti, you can actually get the smell of roses. Delicate smell, they are very subtle smells. They are not like loud perfumes. Just to know whether it's a perfume or not. One doesn't have to ask, by the way, are you wearing this perfume? You don't need to ask. You'll know by the quality.
We do last 4 lines.
Yes. A mystic happiness trembled in the breast as if the invisible beloved had come. Assuming the sudden loveliness of a face, and close glad hands could seize his fugitive feet, and the world change with the beauty of a smile. This is the heart's experience of the beloved when he comes. to the longing heart. So we'll pause here. It's a beautiful canto. We'll continue next Friday.